And hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special edition of Narrative Live with our fellows, Lev Parnas and Dean Blundell here. Can you guys hear and see me? Are you guys good?
Yeah.
How are
Yeah,
you
you look
doing?
and sound great. Yeah.
Everyone
Yeah,
looks and
you
sounds great.
you always, Zev always looks great.
You said the nicest thing.
Doesn't he? I know. It pisses me off. He's one of those good looking dudes where you do a podcast with him. You're like, I'm not the best looking guy on this show by far
But
every
you are,
time I'm
Dean.
on with him.
Do you think I'd qualify for the Hegseth regulations for getting into the military in the top brass section? Am I lean enough? Do I have not of
uh,
a beard? So that's a good
I think
thing.
you I
I was
think
gonna,
your sexual preference might preclude you from the military now,
Oh, that's
dude.
well, you
After
true.
what
see,
I saw
there you
today.
go.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
That
Mm.
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say. Today was one of those days where I think a lot of people are feeling that they're going to be precluded from this military. This is a
Yeah.
different military we're looking at.
So you guys have the same perception as I had. I think this morning that what I heard was and not even that implied, but a threat to the military brass that they either follow this new doctrine that the Trump administration has, which is about domestic deployment of these troops, amongst other things, or else they could lose their jobs. Lev, what did you
Well,
think?
and listen, I want to throw it over to Lev because I want his take because Lev last week kind of he read us the script, had him and Malcolm on for the week in review. Sorry, at the end of the last week, and he basically called it word for word, clip for clip, what Hegseth was going to do, what Trump is going to do. Hegseth excoriating the military, calling them fat beardos, saying that they're going to have to pass his physical, saying that it's going to be male strength only. That'll be the standard. So women are out. Mentioned DEI is no longer part of the equation. He's going to produce a force of unrelenting lethalness that doesn't give a fuck about the Geneva Convention. That was also very hot. Then he left the stage and nobody clapped. And then Trump came on and effectively declared war on the American people. And Lev, you had this from Jump Street last week. Let's get into it in terms of what you're hearing in terms of the response. Then we'll get into some of the clips. But how are you feeling and what are your sources saying after that absolute fucking disaster press conference today?
Oh man, the whole day's been crazy watching this play out. But I've been on the phone all day from the morning, and I could tell you, I mean, I've already done several lives to report on it. This is not coincidence, and this is what I want to make sure everybody understands. The fact that we are in the process today at midnight are going into a shutdown,
Mm.
and the fact that today they had all the generals and all of our top personnel, military brass from around the world, to get basically. Whatever you want to call it, loyalty pledge or a purge or whatever you want to, whatever words you want to use, but basically put them in there into one room and give them, speak to them like they're little kids. For especially from a person that doesn't even, if we were living in a normal world, he would be talking to these generals like sir and mister. And
Mhm.
asking if he could even be allowed in the same room with some of these people that have served, they've dedicated their whole lives, their families, their everything they have to our country, to our Constitution. And as Mark Milley and Mathis said prior to it, that they swore an oath to our Constitution, not to a king, not to one man, not to a dictator, or like I say, a wannabe orange dictator. And that's why to have them all there was, something. First of all, it was embarrassing in front of the whole world because it was played out in front of the whole world. Just think about what Russia, China, and all of these other countries were sitting there, even some of our allies watching our generals being basically watching how, maybe more than a century of what we've accomplished as a country is now being destroyed, like literally in mega warp speed. I mean, think about, forget about even our Constitution, forget about even, the healthcare system and all of this that they're trying to do. But think about what the shift in world alliances, that is transpiring. The fact that, they're planning on taking away, stop defending, getting out of NATO, stop, bringing more attention on, like Dean stated in the opening, basically announcing a war inside our own country,
Mhm.
bringing it, isolating us ourselves. But again, that isolation, 1930s, like Malcolm says, back into when, and I had also a congressman. a Republican congressman, what's his name? Bacon, excuse me,
Don Bacon.
so much,
Yeah.
Don Bacon. And he even said to himself that a lot of the Republicans are in that 1930s phase of being against Europe and being in that isolation mode. And he said it didn't work then, and it's not, and it's obviously not going to work right now. And the fact that they did that, and the fact that they're doing it right now, and what I'm hearing from my sources, and what's very important for all of us to understand, is the timing is extremely important. Because yes, it's playing out, and we're going to talk about all the craziness he said, and a lot of it might even be hilarious, and we could laugh at it. But this is not a laughing matter at all, folks. I want you to understand this is so serious that like never before. And one of the things that out of today that we're going to do as everybody, every subscriber, every person listening up there right now, is you need to make sure you contact your veteran, you contact your military personnel, family, friends, and these generals need to know they cannot leave. They cannot take orders of leaving. They need to stand there because they are right now our last defense of our democracy or as a world that we know it. Because if you take a look at history, any dictatorship, for any dictator to become a full-fledged dictator and take control of their country, they needed the military on their side.
Yeah.
Without the military, no coup actually takes place. So this is right now what's taking place. It's right now a purging of the military and the loyalty that's being established. And look, Donald Trump said it, and I'm sure Zev has the clips. We're going to listen to them today, how he came out and said that if I don't like what I see after I meet these generals or here, I'm going to fire him right there on the spot. You know, go ahead. I'm sorry,
No, I
Zev.
just wanted to hear, because I don't want you to rush past the point of how important the shutdown is.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
why
yeah,
is that
yeah,
shutdown timing
yeah.
so important? Can you explain that to
Good. Yeah.
everybody?
Yeah, thank you, Zeb. I mean, just so much going on, and
Yeah,
then
there is
that's
a
why
lot.
it's like we have to,
Yeah.
and
You
I
don't know
as
where to
I
start today, right?
exactly. And as
Yeah.
I say, one of the important parts is we need to keep our eye on the ball because a lot of it's meant for distraction, but a lot
Mhm.
of it is past distraction point. A lot of it is now excuse me,
Implementation.
implementation of what Project 2025 is. And Donald Trump said the quiet thing out loud today again. I don't know if you have that tape, Zev, or you might be able to find it when he was at the press conference today, when he was taking questions later in the afternoon when he announced the Pfizer
I don't have that. No.
drug. Okay, so and when they were asking him questions there, they one of the questions they asked him about the shutdown, and he basically came out and said something, very, very, the quiet part out loud, basically saying that the Democrats should be very careful, that they should be scared to shut the government down, because during the shutdown, I could do some irreversible things, like
Mhm.
fire certain people, shut down certain projects, and the question was, are you going to get rid of a lot of federal personnel? And he said, absolutely, a lot of people are going to get fired, and you could blame the Democrats on that.
Yeah.
And that's why this is why the timing is so important, because this is part of Project 2025 and hyperbolic speed right now, warp speed as they call it, and they're trying to implement it by pushing on what we're seeing play out by shutting down the government. Because by shutting down the government, they're taking the narrative, because right now the Democrats don't have a strong leader. They
Mhm.
don't have somebody out there that could unite, even bring some congressmen over to the side. Just think about the Epstein files. We've been sitting talking about it, and because we brought such attention to it, even you've been able to see even some of the hardest Trump supporters, hardliners like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace
Bobert.
and Boebert come and sign and side with the Democrats to release the Epstein files. So you're telling me that if we didn't have some kind of strong leader in the Democratic Party, you're telling me out of 200 or some because we only mentioned 10 or so congressmen and women out there that are the same names we talk about, but there's 217 Republican other congressmen and women out there that nobody speaks about. They try to stay quiet. Right now, the Democratic leadership should be standing in front of the pulpit every single day, and every television station, every social media platform, every podcast talking about the Republicans are shutting this down. Release steps, keeping the message. Instead, what we're seeing is it's still continuously infighting,
Yeah.
disagreeing. begging to go sit down with Trump, and when him throwing them out of the Oval Office, saying "Get out of here unless you," and then lying, allowing themselves to come in there, knowing that he's not going. I mean, this is 9 years they're dealing with the guy, and they still don't understand the game plan, that how to deal with him, to go in there and then come out there with him to come out and say, you know what? It's the Democrats that are shutting this down because they want open borders, because they want your money to go fund illegal immigrants. It's the same thing Trump ran on. It's a lie, but they're giving him the ammunition. Instead of taking the ammunition that he's giving us, instead of taking the ammunition that, is God's giving us, the Epstein files, the breakup in Mega, the Charlie Kirk assassination, which is now turning backfiring, and then because a lot of them Mega are starting to realize that that's a cover up. The shooting and the massacre at the church in Michigan being not talked about because it was a Republican and a hardcore Trumper that did that. At what's it called? So there's a lot that is taking place, and his polls. I mean, I don't even want to go with his poll numbers or anything. I think he's in his 30s. I mean, I don't
Lev, do
even.
you think they should not shut down at all? You think the Democrats should have not forced a shutdown?
No, see, it's a tough position when you're made to make that decision right now, 6 hours before the deadline. What I think, now is something. I mean, I'm not there to that inclined that I could give you a true, honest opinion. What would be best for our country? I could give you an opinion that I think, but that doesn't mean that would be the
Yeah, what
right
do you
opinion.
think? I mean, is it right now for them to be shutting down the government?
I mean, the bottom line is not the Democrats that are shutting it down, though. I mean, they have to take a stance. The problem is they didn't let it happen earlier. First of all,
First
they
time,
did shut it
yeah.
down the first time around that Schumer gave him, and not only that, but it's not even the point. They know. See, let me take it back a second, Zev, so people understand my point. The Democrats knew the shutdowns were coming.
Mhm.
And what I'm saying is they still don't know how to play ball with Trump. They knew that this was, you could, a blind person could have seen that Trump was going to set them up to make them look like they were the one, even though Trump controls, they control all three executive branches, from the House, the Senate, and the executive branch, the presidency. So they're shutting it down. But the way they're setting it up to make it seem that it's, again, the Democrats are trying to get something out of it. They knew that was going to happen. Where I'm pissed off is that they should have had some leadership that should have been uniting. Because just think about how close the Republican and the Democrat, the House is. We're like 4 or 5 seats away from taking over the House.
But in 6 hours, there's still time for that vote in the Senate to actually pass this resolution. So let me just clarify from everybody, because I think this is true for me in any event. They're giving up a lot in the shutdown. Firstly, we're not sure how we get out of a shutdown. So we could be in a shutdown mode for a lot, which gives Trump sort of dictatorial powers just because the Congress really isn't there.
There's no oversight.
He can launch military interventions, as he says. He can fire people. Just this morning, he met with a bunch of military brass threatening to fire them. So he could fire all these people during the next few weeks. He could do all sorts of things. And we don't know how to reverse it because we don't have a plan around reversing it. Plus the Epstein files, which I know is a big thing for all of us here. Without this 218th vote, which we're so close to, I mean, we're a day away from that.
We have them. They have them. We're just waiting for that young lady from Arizona to get sworn in, provided that Grinder Mike Johnson actually swears her in. But to that point, and I would say this, and I welcome conversation about the whole thing. I don't even think it really fucking matters if he shuts down the government, because he's been doing the shit anyway, right? Like, he's been militarizing cities anyway. He's been impinging on people's habeas corpus rights anyway. He is sending ICE into cities anyway. And today he said the quiet part out loud. I don't know if we have that clip, but he literally said this, that he was going to use cities around the United States, and challenged 800 of the smartest, most dedicated career military men and women in the United States to kind of subtly think about, maybe you should be trying your military expertise out in some of these sanctuary cities. Guys, do you have that clip?
I was watching during Biden, there were troops standing up like this, brave, standing up at attention, the way I should stand all the time. And I'm like this, and people are standing, and their mouth is this far away from their mouth, and they're spitting at him, and they're screaming at him. And that soldier standing there, he wants to knock the hell out of the person, but he's not allowed to do anything. So they just stand there and they get abused. And a woman was this far away from his face, and she starts spitting in his face, and he's not allowed to do anything. If it's okay with you, generals and admirals, I've taken that off. I say, they spit, we hit. Is that okay? I think so. They spit, it's a new thing. They spit. I was watching during Biden.
This is an important one. I think this is what he's basically saying is when it is funny too, but he's bringing the military in here. He's suggesting that he brings the military in, and when they confront civilians, because right now we don't have.
He's taking the governor off. You can kick the shit out of him, is what he's saying.
Yeah. Right now we don't have the military in. We have the National Guard in. It's a big distinction. The National Guard is meant to be in. That's what the National Guard does. To bring the rest of the military in, he needs buy-in from all these generals. And what he's saying in his speech and implying in these speeches is, not only am I going to bring you in to do domestic work here, I'm going to have you, instead of confronting other soldiers, you're going to be confronting the civilians in this country. And in this spitting exchange, what he's basically saying is, I'm going to have you guys stop these people from spitting on you or stop these people from confronting you. But he's not talking about enemy combatants. He's talking about civilians in the United States. And then he's asking them for buy-in, which I think is so disturbing in the way he sort of he framed it, you know. And
worse, he's trying to incentivize them, Lev. I don't know if you heard that too. He's trying to incentivize these generals to get involved in a domestic war against his enemies. And the incentivization is, guys, I've taken the governor off. Mm-hmm. If you military generals decide to join my fucking secret war against the left and Americans, if you decide that you want to go to war against Americans with me and they're rude to you, I've cleared the way for you to kick that ass. I've cleared the way for you to import capital punishment on as many people in America as you like. Is that not how you kind of translate that too, Lev?
I mean, the easiest way to put that in is he went Full Metal Jacket today. I mean, basically, like the movie, he took us back. And if anybody watched the movie, it's not just on the citizens. I mean, he took off the governors. Even Hexek earlier talked about where you're now bringing back a place in the military where fear, putting your arms on a cadet, and taking him through that whole grind, and that has evolved over the years, that have been gotten better to a point where we don't have that, is all back now. He's like, we're not taking any shit anymore. I mean, you could, if we want that army back into place, and where we could throw you where you're almost dying, where we could grab you and shake you, and where we could put our hands on you, and it's okay, and if you because
the same thing. Hexet said the same thing, basically. If you've got a bully, if you've got a toxic leader, as he called him, well, we're not going to worry about that so much anymore. It's if you get hazed, not such a big deal. All the abuse in the military, not a big deal for them. I mean, they're sort of going back to that period of time, which is is a bygone era, we thought, in American military. Here is that clip about the governors, and then you guys get to the responses.
Our military, National Guard, but military. Because we're going into Chicago very soon. That's a big city with an incompetent governor, stupid governor, stupid. They threw him out of his family business. He was so stupid. I know the family. He becomes governor. He's got money. Not money that he made, but he ran for governor, he won, and now he criticizes us all the time. And last week they had 11 people murdered, 44 people shot. The week before that they had 5 people murdered, 28 people shot. Every weekend they lose 5, 6. If they lose 5, they're considering it a great week. They shouldn't lose any. You shouldn't lose any. This is civilization.
Yeah, then he goes on shortly after that to say effectively that he would like the military to go in and practice in American cities, practice going to war in American cities that he sends them into, specifically blue cities, blue states, sanctuary cities. Like that to me, and then really parroted the fascist talking points, Lev, about about how there's an enemy with from within, and then really centered on you guys. And it was almost like fuck the manipulation that this man, even in the middle of the fucking room with the most powerful people in the country, how he goes, remember your oath, foreign and domestic. That, I mean, that just sent it home. Like that was effectively him declaring war on the American people and letting these guys know, all 800 generals, admirals, high-ranking U.S. officials, career people who were stunned. Some of the pictures from the actual the event itself, you had fucking generals with their hands on their face like this.
Mhm.
How do you read that, Lev? Do you read it any other way other than that was a declaration of war, and what he's trying to do is warm up every single man and women in uniform that matters to the idea that he's going to need them to go and crack some American skulls?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's what dictator that's exactly what I'm going to bring it back to what I said. I mean, to become a full dictator, you need the military because without the military, you can't do it. And what we saw uh, play out today, what we saw him go out there and do is basically, in not so many words, is say either you're a part of the game, you're on the team, or you're off the team. You're on the train or you're off the train, and this is where the train is going. This is what we're planning on doing. He said we're doing it already. We're in Chicago. We're going to Memphis. You know, we're doing all of these things right now. Now we're taking it a notch up because now we need, like you said, bringing in the National Guard is one thing, but now when you're bringing in the military, they're not prepared for stuff like this, folks. The military is trained to go out there and combat enemy. Enemy meaning that are not civilians that don't not American citizens. They're enemy of the United States. So to have the military personnel, they're not trained in that way. To have them
It's
come
also
in, and
illegal.
that's why
It's illegal. You know, the Posse Comitatus
that's what I'm
Act
saying.
makes it completely illegal for them to do it unless it's an insurrection. And
And
you know,
well, and that's why. I mean, that's what he's preparing. I mean,
yeah.
that's where the rhetoric is
Mm.
constantly going. You know, it's the far left, the radical left. You know, it's the deep state. It's the same language. You know, he does. That's the one thing that the Democrats need to learn. You don't need to have a lot of fancy, language. You need to just keep the same thing, repeating it over and over again, the same thing. And Donald Trump is great at doing that. And he said he's been doing it for 9 years, and they still don't know how to deal with him. And that is the scariest part. And that's why,
So
yeah, go ahead.
no,
Go
no,
ahead.
no. Let me ask you this, Lev. Have you heard from any men and women in uniform? I know you jumped on with Malcolm real quick, but have you heard from any men and women in uniform, or anybody who was at the meeting, or anybody that's downloaded aspects of what happened today with Hegseth running down career officials? With Trump effectively threatening them that you're going to have to help me fight Americans or else. Do you know anything about how that meeting was taken by some of the generals, admirals, and high-ranking officials that were actually in the meeting itself?
Well, I haven't spoken to anybody since the meeting happened, but from what I know from sources in around Trump world, that there was already a list. There, so there's, they all have these lists. So there was already a group, a list of people, of generals that are not going to fit into a lot of the criteria that they said that, and that's why they were being said to, like, being either overweight or being a female or having facial hair or whatever the 99 different things that is wrong with our military and Pete Hegseth's way and that he is redoing. There's a lot of people already that don't fit that criteria or on this list, and that's why you've heard several times Hegseth say it, you've heard Trump say it. If you don't like it, you could leave. If you can't bear the words, if my words are hitting you too hard, then resign. If but then Trump said it also in a way where, yes, you could leave, you could resign, but don't forget you give up all your benefits, your stars, your everything.
Yeah, rank.
Again, your rank again, threatening, because again, you're dealing with this is a different. I'm not a military guy, so it's difficult even for me to understand the position that these people are in because but for those veterans out there, for those military families and veteran families, they know what they're this is some serious shit that we're going through here, because these are people that give up their lives. These are people that give up for us to be able to sit here and speak, for that orange turd over there to be able to come out there and say the things that he's saying, to have the freedom of speech, to have the Constitution, to be able to fight for free and democracy. And now they're being put into position where they've given up arms, limbs, lives to get to this point, and now all of a sudden they're trying to rewrite history, that some of those generals and so now are not great, and, and take back some of the war criminals and turn them into generals,
Yeah.
and turn them into heroes, just like he's doing with January 6th.
Hmm.
He wants to rewrite history there, where the January 6th wasn't an insurrection by Trump and MAGA. It was a deep state operation run by the deep state, the FBI, and the Democrats to the
To
really
frame Trump.
right
Yeah. Yeah.
to frame Trump. And again, it's right. Just like I was just on Waja's show, The Left Hook, and we were talking about it. And Danielle said she said one really good point: Tiananmen Square. If you guys know, in China, Tiananmen Square, that was when the Chinese turned the army against their own students,
Yeah.
tanks running over young students, kids. You know the crazy part? In China, that's erased out of their history.
Hmm.
See,
Completely
we
gone.
talk about, but in China, it's not there. So the Chinese that are being taught don't know, just like, what they try to do with the Holocaust in places,
Yeah.
they just erase the history with time and with, brainwashing. That is what Trump is trying to do with the January 6th insurrection.
Yeah.
He's trying to rewrite it so it doesn't
He had
exist.
it
So
taken out of the
it's
fucking
for
Smithsonian, Lev. Like there were
correct. Yeah.
references to it in the Smithsonian. He had it taken out. He's also trying to get rid of America's slave history. Like,
Yeah.
where
Uh,
he's you got to. So to your point, yeah, I mean, this is revisionist history. This is dictator. This is fascism 101, right? The
Plus, they've
re-education
got
of a people.
Plus, they've got the surveillance state that they're building, right, against every liberal or left-leaning liberal that they're now going to start monitoring and calling them pre-terrorists. You add to that the deployment of the military in domestic arena. You add to this the DOJ being weaponized against Comey and every other liberal Democrat out there. You've got a real coalescence of
Coalition.
forces
Yeah.
of against liberals and Democrats. People are, they're being turned into the enemy of America for holding a
Well,
different political
listen.
view.
Just to make just to draw a darker picture for you, if I can, let's factor in the SCOTA 6-3 decision that says ICE can apprehend anybody based on apparent race.
Yeah.
Let's factor in the NS. What is it called? NSPM. The National Security Presidential Memorandum 7.
Yeah.
It's a directive number 7 that says if you don't believe in capitalism, if you're anti-capitalism, if you've ever said anything about Christians, if you've ever said anything we don't like, you can get arrested for being a pre-terrorist.
Mhm.
And then add to on top of that him trying to fucking close the circle, right? Lev, close the circle with, oh, by the way, I'm going to get the military to do all my fucking dirty work. This is, and then you add on top of that the government shutdown. It's almost the perfect fucking scenario for a guy like Donald Trump and everybody involved in Project 2025, Lev.
Well, that's why I mean, Dean, you couldn't have said it better. That's why I said in the beginning of the show, this is not by coincidence. What we're seeing play out, this is a strategical put together of things that are happening. And just now we're having breaking news, and that's why I was looking to the right now, that Senate Majority Leader Thomas Tum came out and basically said that if we have a shutdown, there will be no conversation with any Democrats during the shutdown. So we'll it'll be complete darkness during the shutdown. I mean, it's just like, and you know what? I don't know if going back to what Zev said, to start off with, and then I must agree with Dean, because I don't think it makes a difference. We don't have a Congress right now that's going to stand in his way. We don't have a Democratic leadership that's going to be able to go there and get 4 or 5 congressmen or women to fight for democracy. We don't have it. I mean, so because we don't have it, then I, you know what, I say, you know what,
Except
everything's
the
on the
military.
table.
The military
go
is answerable to the Congress. It's not answerable to the president. The military gets its deployment orders from Congress. And if Congress doesn't operate at any given time, the president's going to argue that he can do that. But right now, the military is an offshoot of the Congress. He has the Joint Chief of Staff as an advisor, and then the rank and file are responsible to the Secretary of Defense. But ultimately, it's Congress that decides deployments, decides budgets, decides.
No,
It is.
no, Zev. You know where we live. You're right.
Yeah.
Theoretically, you got it. Yeah.
Theoretically, I'm sorry. Today, my
No,
word.
that's okay.
You're 100% right. But in the real world that we live in right now, it's going to not be up to Congress. We don't have a Congress. I
Yeah.
mean, if
They
they're
shut it
open, they're
down.
closed. But if even they stay open, I mean, Johnson's going to allow him to do whatever he wants. He's going to want to hit Venezuela. They're going to give him whatever. They're going to push. If they push right now, they haven't stopped him till now. I can't imagine anything that he would want to do that they wouldn't stop him. They're all for putting the military on the streets of the United States. They're all for covering up for the Epstein files. So they're all for everything he wants to do. What I'm saying to you is it's still going to be up to these generals that were in
Mhm.
that room today. Because at the end of the day, right now we're at a point where each and one, and that's what I'm saying to each and one of those individuals is going to have to go deep down inside their heart because they're the only these are the
Yeah.
people that are gave up their life to defend our country, and now the threat to our country is not from outside, it is from inside. But now what Donald Trump is saying is the left. The threat is Donald Trump and the mega Project 2025 movement. And right now, our defense line for them is these generals, is these people that have sworn their oath to the Constitution. Because Congress has sold their soul and basically sold out the Constitution.
That's
Senate has
very
sold their
astute.
soul.
However, I will say this: if you've got 800 generals that he's going to fire, right now, I think the 800 generals are holding the line. They basically are telling him no to almost everything, and that's why the reaction today was complete silence. When
Well, I
he
think
walked
that's why
in.
you had that meeting today. Yeah, to your
But
point.
they're pushing back. They're holding the line. Now, if he fires a whole bunch of them without Congress being in place, he can appoint new generals and new ranking officers without congressional approval. So that's another good reason for the
But see,
Democrats
this
to
is
actually stay in there.
But see, this is what, and I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah,
Zeb, but see,
no
this
worries.
is the whole thing. The army, the military, what I'm from speaking to Malcolm and others inside, is a lot different than it's not a corporation.
Mhm.
You can't just take one out because there's a thing called respect and leadership and authority and to follow it. And that's what they're having a problem with right now because you have a guy like Hegseth that doesn't can't get the respect of any of these generals to even sit in a room to talk to him, now is talking down to them. And there's a certain pride these men carry because a lot of them have lost a lot and given up a lot to be able to be in that position. And there's a certain respect and understanding. It's a different world when you go in there. So when you start purging and start putting in, yes, it starts working, but you're going to see a resistance somewhere. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Because these are the men that, because this is how the divisions and the dictatorships are. You're going to see if if enough people stand for the Constitution, democracy, or enough of these generals are going to want to stand with. Because you gotta understand, just like we were speaking with Malcolm, and he was 100% right. There's a probably right 60% of these generals in the army agree with what Trump and his Hegseth are saying, even though they don't, they're being spoken down to. They might not, they overlook the respect part of it, but they agreed that to take the country or the military back to the thinking of what they're trying to portray.
Mhm.
You understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're talking about human nature, right? Like human
right,
nature dictates that, probably half that room agrees with all the shit that came out of Trump's mouth, all the shit that came out of
correct,
Hegseth's mouth. And they're wired to, look up to that chain of command. I did
yeah.
ask a buddy of mine, I'm like, who's with Canadian Navy, who knows people that are in the American Navy. I'm like, any word? And he's like, shame, embarrassment, disaster. That's what he heard back.
Mhm.
And then he sent me a screenshot from someone that was in the meeting. Worst lunch and learn ever.
Can't imagine the mood in there. This is such another clip. Here's another one from Trump.
Our history is filled with military heroes who took on all enemies, foreign and domestic. You know that phrase? Very well. That's what the oath says, foreign and domestic. Well, we also have domestic.
There you go.
George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Grover Cleveland, George Bush, and others all used the armed forces to keep domestic order and peace.
I mean, that's exactly it. That's what you were saying.
That's all you need. That's all you need, right? I mean, that's the whole kettle of fish, Lev. It's, and the subtlety with which he delivered it. And I want to get to his low energy, but he was really subtle in how he tried to deliver the message to the most high-ranking officers in America. Where he's like, "Domestic, you ever heard of that one? Domestic, right?" Like he was like, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But what I couldn't help but notice the entire time. And God bless Steve Bannon or not, but Steve Bannon said it too. He's like, that guy's not well. Like he was so low energy, and I don't know what you saw, but that's what I saw through all the fasci. I saw a guy who was really struggling even to get through it today.
Well, we've been talking about for a while now. I mean, part of the things that we're seeing on his arms, we've spoken about, some of my sources have been telling me about also that, he's getting IV fluids. We've seen, how he looks, his crankles, ankles, whatever you want to call them. You see the blotches of the blood blotches. We see, and plus you got to keep in mind, his age, B, the schedule he runs with,
Yeah.
C, the diet he keeps. I mean, he could go out there and have the doctors or anybody lie and say that he's the most fit individual, most healthy individual, but that's because we don't know the truth. You don't see his real what blood thinners he's on, or what diabetes, or what, or if he has high blood pressure, or all the medications. So and plus his age. So obviously, combined all of that, it just naturally, it's not a good scenario. And then also from what we're hearing, from what I'm hearing, from what's being reported on, he's not well. So taking that into consideration, watching how quickly and how fast they're literally unloading and pushing implementing Project
Yeah.
2025, is also gives you kind of understanding that he's not going to be around forever, obviously. But
Well, listen, because one of the things that happened yesterday that comes with this shutdown conversation was when Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer came out, and I'm going to lean into how unwell he is, and they say, "Hey, listen, we're pretty sure this is the first time he understood the damage that the Medicaid cuts are going to cost. Like no one's actually told him." And then I'm watching him up there today, bumble, stumble, kind of tell these guys foreign, domestic, we need to kick that ass, going through that Rolodex of excuses and dumb shit that he says. He's just on repeat. To me, it's almost like the Project 2025 guys and the people that are behind him are trotting this sick old fuck out every single day to do something even worse. And he has no idea in some cases what he's even doing. And when I watched him and that whole vibe today, Lev, I was like, does he even know where he is? Like, does he even know what he's saying? Clearly he does. Clearly he's as dangerous as we know he is. But I mean, the stars are aligning underneath a very sickly Donald Trump, which tells me that, hey, man, like, you talk about the breakneck speed with which they're trying to turn over the military, breakneck speed that they're trying to institute this new directive, NP, is it, sorry, NP,
Yes, SN7.
NSPM, I don't know, whatever, presidential memorandum number 7, and you watch how fast he's trying to roll up all of these blue states. It's almost like they're panicking. Everybody behind Trump and the regime are fucking panicking.
I think they're scared to death. I really do. I see that fear in the way he spoke today. He didn't go out there with the full force and authority of the president of the United States. He was dancing around what he was trying to say. He didn't have the power to do what he's doing because he doesn't have the popularity.
Well, you're 100% right. And popularity comes with also inside the military, because all these military also have families, and they're also, so it all spreads. So if you're not popular, he understands, he wasn't standing in front of a crowd, like you said, jeering, clapping. There was no clapping. There was no rooting. There was no rah, rah, rah. There was no great, you didn't see any of that. You saw, like, it looked like a funeral. It
Yeah.
looked like basically, you looked a lot of our top brass, our
Low
top
energy
military president.
cringe. Yeah.
It was a low energy cringe, and even in Hegsog, you saw Hegsog walking around there trying to get a reaction. It's stone cold. It was like silence in the room. Then Trump tried to, came in there thinking he's a comedian. Again, just think about it. He came in there with cracking jokes to lighten out the mood, And again, this is playing out. This is the crazy part, folks. This is what, really, really you have to understand why this is so dangerous. This was being broadcast for the whole world to see.
Mm.
Think
Yeah.
about that for a second. Why? Why does our brass, our whole military, why does the whole world, why is the Chinese, why do our adversaries need to hear how we're berating our top military brass, how we're dividing how I mean, because everything that we're just like, you're giving them, I mean, any adversary, you're giving them just gold mine of information, because they're all sitting there saying America right now is really fucked,
Mhm.
because right now they're forget about their country is divided, but their military is now 100% divided. Because I don't care what you say, I don't care what analyst you are, I don't care how much you know, we're all human beings. And after a speech like that, it could be 60-40, it could be 70-30, it could be 50-50. It doesn't matter, but that room is divided,
Yeah.
because in that room, when he got up and left, there was a certain percentage of those people that said, wow, we're back. I'm so happy. I could go out there tomorrow and kick some ass and get no repercussion. I could go kill some people, go do, yeah, give me my AK-47. I want to go, whatever it
Let's
is.
go to Portland.
Let's
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
Portland, exactly. And then you have another half of that room that's sitting there and saying, holy shit, what are we going to do to stand and save our democracy? Because what we just watched and play out in front of our eyes is that enemy that is
Mhm.
facing our country right now.
These officers all have a pledge of allegiance to the Constitution. They don't pledge their allegiance to the president or anything like that. They pledge it to the Constitution, and that is what they're responsible to. So anytime they're being asked to do an act that's illegal or an order that is unconstitutional, it's their job, it's their responsibility to say no, to refuse to do it, or they could face the consequences. They could go to jail.
Yeah. Yes,
And
but
this is the situation that they've got the president of the United States against the Constitution of the United States and 800 generals that have to choose.
yes, but it's not only the generals. I mean, we've seen this whole scenario break down in the past 8 months. Same thing
Mhm.
with the congressmen and senators. They pledge an oath to the Constitution,
Right.
not to one man, and they broke down and gave to Donald Trump. Same thing as our Attorney General. Same thing as our Secretary of Defense. Same thing to any of those cabinetary holders. When they put their hand on the Bible, when they stand there in front of, they pledge an allegiance to the Constitution. And they sat there all in their hearings and pledged allegiance and sat there and said that they would be there for the Constitution and the people, not for one man. And they all broke down. So even to the point that our police, our ICE agents that you see right now out there that being unleashed, all of these individuals pledge allegiance to the people, to the Constitution, not to one man. America is based off
The
pledging
military is
allegiance to our
different, though, isn't it,
Constitution.
Lev?
That
The
no,
military is
because
considered differently. I mean, the military sort of
again,
protects
no,
the
no,
country.
again, no, I agree with you. That's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah.
It's a different
In
world, but
theory. Yeah.
in theory, exactly. But at the end of the day, we all bleed the same way.
Mm.
We all, what's it called? Yes, that is why. To my point is right now you have a divided military because they all go in there understanding, but today they don't know if they're on that same, if they're all sitting in that room, if they look to the left or to the right, are they on the same side? Because the rules changed.
But they
You
still have
see,
to.
when
They still have to do support the Constitution, and that's why I think it's a little bit different. I was talking to Terence
but
Goggin yesterday, the West Point professor, and his point is this: their oath is to the Constitution and only the Constitution. Therefore, their decision is quite easy in terms of which way to go. It's not easy ultimately to make because it's against the president of the United States, but they have to decide whether they will break the law on behalf of this man.
So,
And
but
and
so,
there's
but
and the choice should be pretty easy for these educated, smart people who've been in the military for a long time, that they're not going to put their own lives at risk in order to break the law for the president. And that's why I think the military is constructed differently, and is, it's crazy that this is the last line of defense and we're
but
facing it, but
But
that's
that
where we
again,
are.
Zev, again, that's all great said. But if you take a look at history and you take a look at each democracy that fell to dictatorship, they all thought that the military was
Mhm.
different.
Yeah.
They all that was their that because that's why I'm saying to you, the military is your last line. Because in theory, what you're saying is 100% right, and we should be able to sleep well at night, thinking that those men sitting in that and women in that room right now today are going to get up from there and that right now are planning all together. They're on the same. They're not. What you're saying is that nobody in that room should be right now saying to ourselves that we're going to how are we going to go support him. They should all be sitting there and saying, okay, how are we going to unitely get rid of now Donald Trump,
Yeah.
because he's now trying to go against the Constitution. But unfortunately, that's not taking place.
Yeah. We don't
Unfortunately,
know. We
you
don't know. Do we
no, no,
know
we
that?
do know. No, we know that for 1,000,000%. We
Mm.
know
Yeah,
because we know that there's enormous amount of people in that room sitting there because there already is already that loyalty, the division in our country, and that division, and that's what I want to make clear, is not only in the military. That division is in our DOJ. That's why they're purging the DOJ. That's why they're firing every day somebody that doesn't listen to them. That division is in our FBI. That's why they're firing and purging the FBI all day
it's in
long.
the
That division,
IRS.
it's in the
Yeah,
IRS. It's in every organ, and that division is in our everyday of life right now. That
yeah.
division in our schools, our kids.
Agreed.
What where you send your kids to school? What bank you're going to go to? What city you're going to live in? Where you go work today? We are the most divided that we've ever been, and we are now based all our decisions. Most of our decisions are not based now on health, on where we want to retire, where it's good to live. It's based on politics, where you're going to be accepted and where you could live with your own kind that
Mhm.
will eat. And that is the scary part. And that is the number one part of all of these our adversaries, like the Putins and the Cheese and all out there. That is why they were sitting in China laughing at all this. This is the shit that they're laughing at,
Mm.
because it's not the one thing where that he doesn't deliver weapons, or he does deliver weapons to Ukraine. It's not about what he's doing in the Middle East, because all of those things, a lot of these leaders, could withstand and wait another 2 years. He's gone. The next one. That's why they deal. The United States is different than most of these other countries because we are a democracy, because we have leadership that could change every 4 years, Congress every 2 years. But the difference is that no matter what we change that, we always united against authoritarianism. We always, it didn't matter left or right. We always united against dictatorship, and we always were united against. Now we're divided on those values. You
Mhm.
Mhm.
see, now we have, because that's what MAGA was. It brought in where you have a lot of this country supporting China, supporting Russia against their own country. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
So,
And
so
that's the division. Yeah, yeah.
let me just kind of insert this, because I would agree with Lev, and I think I would hopefully agree with Zev. Is that, in a perfect world, of course, a man or woman that has pledged allegiance to the Constitution on behalf of joining, being a member of the U.S. forces, a distinguished member of the Army, distinguished member of the Navy, Special Forces, whatever. Yes, ideally, that's their oath. It's to the Constitution. Ideally, 800 people should have stood up and gave him the finger or walked out and said, "We're going to go back to work defending democracy at home and abroad right now. So go fuck yourself." But much like we're starting to find out who some of these ideologically motivated extremist mass shooters are, 1 in 4 has military training. Just found that out today. The guy that shot up the Mormon church, former Navy guy, the guy that shot up, a boat bar in North Carolina, decorated former Navy SEAL. I mean, you're dealing with people that have all kinds of PTSD, people that have been through the ringer. The government's put them through the ringer, and they're no different than us. They've got issues, they've got bugaboos, they've got ideologies that they serve. right? And it doesn't matter if it's a private or if it's a fucking general, or if it's an admiral or if it's a petty officer. It doesn't matter. They're all individuals. And like we are seeing now, kind of bear out the fact that a lot of these military guys are right wing guys that come from the fucking military that are doing most of the mass shooting on the right. We also saw the same thing when it came to the convoy in J6. A lot of military people that were involved in the insurrection, that were involved in the convoy, who just simply hated the government for the service that they had to commit and what they lost, the quality of life that they have. So to Lev's point, theoretically, all of these things should be good. America should be all tucked in, knowing the military has a problem with Donald Trump telling them to usurp the Constitution and the Posse Comitatus Act of 1865.
Dean, we lost you there.
Yeah, we lost Dean's voice. Oh, we
Um,
lost Dean. We lost it.
he'll,
No,
he'll
we
come
lost
back.
him.
He'll come
Where's
back. He'll
He'll
come
come
back.
back.
He's just, let me play another clip while I get him back here.
The
Yeah.
cars are coming out. They get brand new cars, Border Patrol, ICE, beautiful, nice new cars. And they're driving along and they have to go through a gauntlet of rocks being thrown at the car. So here's this beautiful brand new car. By the time it goes 100 yards, it's destroyed. These guys have pretty good arms, some of them. And they're throwing bricks at full force into the window and into the car. It looks like it's a war zone. And I said, never let that happen again. From now on, if that ever happens, and I say it here, you get out of that car and you can do whatever the hell you want to do. Because those people are, you can die from that. Those bricks go through the windows. You can die. They'd like it to. They'd like it to go through the window. But this was a couple of months ago. They just kept driving and bricks are hitting the car. The cars are coming out. They get brand new cars, Border Patrol, ICE, beautiful, nice new cars. And they're driving along and they have to go through a gauntlet of.
Yeah, let's stop it there. But you get the sense of him saying
Yeah.
that full force authority, basically,
Well,
and he wants the military to do that.
Yeah, and just to
yeah.
finish off my sentence before I got rudely interrupted by a phone call, my apologies, gentlemen.
Sorry.
Just to finish off my sentence, there is a large portion of the military that has no problem with what he just said, and I just outlined why. Lev, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you know, I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, listen, I mean, that's the whole problem, and that's what you're seeing play out. He's basically there. Look, there's a certain type of individual that goes into the military to begin with. You know, what I'm saying to you, you have to, really be you know, somebody that wants to give up his a life, his everything for our country, and I give him all the props. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Mhm.
But a lot of these people, when they serve and when they go see all this gruesome, like Dean said, they come back with a lot of this PTSD, a lot of this, wanting to get back, with that war mentality. It's like, fighting, shooting. When you're out there in the war, shooting the AK-47, it's a lot different, rules and engagements than when you're dealing with American citizens.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Of
And
course.
what Trump is taking away is all the guardrails. He's taking away, basically, he's saying to all of these people that are in the military, in the police, in authority, in the Congress, anybody, saying, listen, you don't have to worry about, somebody else's rights. You don't have to worry about, the Constitution or what we fought for all the time. Just
Your
think
oath.
about your oath, because you know what? We want to go back to the J. Edgar Hoover era. We want to
Mhm.
go back to where the FBI is crooked, where the FBI is spying on their own people. Let me ask you this: how do we not know that right now we are not in the Edgar Hoover, J. Hoover era? How do we not know that right now we are not being listened to and spied by the FBI and Cash
We
Patel?
are.
There,
We are in that
there is
era.
right. Yeah, there's no what's it called, authority. There's nothing
Mm.
oversight. There's
And no
nobody over
consequences.
the. There's no consequences. There's no oversight on any of these things. So what you're basically is you're unleashing a very dangerous power, and it's like that movie. Was it called The Purge? I think the movie was called The
Yeah,
Purge,
the
right? When
purge. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
well,
There's
I
a
mean,
few of them.
that's a perfect example of the of what it is, because we as human beings all have something inside of us. A lot of us. I mean, it is what it is. And Donald Trump is just going inside and reaching into that hatred and into that anger that a lot of people are living with. that don't agree with where our country has headed with, and don't agree with, all these different color people in the streets, or different marriages, or the way you want to live your lives, or how many kids I want to have, or what color hair Dean wants to have, or stuff like that.
Whatever
They don't
dress I
agree with
want to
it.
wear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't agree with where we are. But they had to keep quiet.
Mm.
They had to keep it inside. They couldn't, they couldn't show their racism, because in the 60s and 70s, when it was okay, or in the 90s, 80s, 90s, 2000, it's not okay. Where you had to now lie, where and Donald Trump opened it up, where now it's okay to be that. It's okay
Mhm.
to be a racist. You could be that at work. You're and now you could. It's okay to not talk bad about immigrants. It's okay to go back, and if somebody hits you, don't call the police. Go hit it back. Go
Yeah.
go back. It's that survival of the fittest. Is that going back to the Roman ages of ruling with that type of fist, and that's where we're headed. I mean, and that's why, again, I'm saying that with we could debate, and we could talk about all these things that are happening, policies and everything. But the one thing I'm going to tell everybody, if the one thing you take away from today's show, from today's conversation, from today, and I don't want to say a show, because it's not a show,
Mhm.
because we're here really risking everything to be able to bring this information, because it's true. The one thing that you really get, that we are, and we say it a lot of times, but right now, Donald Trump has put us in a position, like it or not. It's not no longer 2026. He kept moving up
The
Timeline.
the
dictatorial
timeline.
goalposts.
That
Yeah.
yeah, it started with 2028 when he won his election. We knew that 2028 we had to gear up to make sure. Then he moved it up to 2026. We realized that if we don't come back and get in 2026, we won't see a 2028. And
Mhm.
now he took that away from us. Basically, what he did today, with the combination of the shutdown that's taking place tonight, which is probably going to happen, and the speech that that he gave, the debacle, him and Hexa gave to our military force, that basically turned into a purge, is basically put us into a position right now that we are right now, because if he succeeds, and these generals bow down, or leave, or give up, leave, don't leave without a fight, whatever it is, and give him control, where all of a sudden you see the shift, just like we saw the shift happen with ICE, just like we saw the shift happen in Congress, just like we saw. If we see that shift in our military, folks, there is no 2026. I'm going to tell
Mhm.
you right now. That is why, and I'm not saying it to scare you, because it is scary and it's very important. But I'm telling you this to be aware, and there is something we could do. And that line of defense is right there, because if enough of those generals stand up to him and make it hard enough, and don't make it easy enough, that is the beginning where that Project 2025 is going to hit a brick wall, because he hasn't seen that yet.
Mhm.
If you take a look at, since he's come into office, it's been basically, it's like Moses. He's going down, and the waters are just spreading for him. You know what I'm saying to you? He's just walking in. The sea is divided up for him, and he's walking through it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody's in his way. So this is why this is so important, because if he gets in his way right now, he's definitely going to have the military in our cities. You're definitely going to see militarization, insurrection. You're not going to see an election. And that is why we do have a strong force, because the one thing Dean said, and you said, Zev, and I said, and we all say, is besides having a title as a general, we're all human beings.
Mhm.
Mm.
And yes, that works against us, because of all of these mega points that we made, but it also works for us, because I believe, just like you guys believe, that there's a lot more good than bad out there,
Yeah.
and there's
Mm.
a lot more of these generals that are going to want to stand up for our constitution and democracy instead of against it, and that's why I believe that we could reach them a lot easier, because there's a lot of veterans, families, 6 degree of separation. And right now is when we right now need to make our voices heard louder than ever. Forget about the Democratic leadership calling them, because there's nobody there that's going to help us. Right now, we need to make our voices heard between the veteran community, between the military community, between the family, the friends, co-workers. Share it, talk to them to make sure that put enough pressure, put enough support. Let them know that there's enough support behind them to stand up and to make sure that do not fold, do not bend the knee, do not sell out our Constitution, because I do not see, honestly, a bright line at the end of the tunnel if these generals bend the knee to Donald Trump right now.
Mm.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Well
Generals,
said.
the generals need to stand up. I mean, that's the last line of defenses we've been saying. I would argue as well that I don't think, it's only a few hours left and it's probably going to happen anyhow. I don't think the shutdown is advisable. And while it's considering the crisis we're in right now, this is a real crisis you're painting here. This is the last days of democracy. These are the gates closing on everything that we hold dear as a democracy. The free speech, no military in our streets, the ability to vote, the ability to express yourself, the ability to move freely in your country, have your own careers, have your own lives, have your own families. These things are all being shut down by what is going on in this crisis that started, I think, to really become real today. Like for me, it's become, the last few weeks,
Yeah.
let's say, with the surveillance laws, the DOJ targeting politicians and enemies, and now this is so fundamental. The idea that the military would have to follow this man down this, crazy, despotic path that he's taking America to this cataclysmic point where we would have to be in a world war. I mean, this is where we're heading if we follow this man, versus the principles in the Constitution that are in the Constitution. That to me is very, very different. And for that reason, I don't think the Democrats should be shutting down the Congress. And I know it's only a few hours left, and I doubt they're listening to me, but still, I think is just an important thing for people to hear out there.
I think I'll split the difference and say I think that the Congress has been shut down since Donald Trump has ascended back to office. They have done jack shit for the last 9 months, and so not having him there will just be a mirror for the last 9 months. That is my friend Lev Parnas. At Lev Parnas is where you can follow him here on Substack. Listen, he is number 1 or 2 in world politics. He called this last week on a show with Malcolm Nance. He has burned the phones trying to get people the information. The information you gave us, Lev, was it what happened today was what exactly was going to happen, and America should be very afraid. Malcolm Nance said the same thing, but you should also be encouraged because we're not done yet. America's not over. Americans still have an opportunity to stand up for America. Hopefully you get a little support from those those generals and those admirals. Hopefully those generals and admirals are canvassing people that they protect on a daily basis, talking to their family members. And hopefully everybody is sharing this conversation with as many people as they humanly can. Not only subscribing to each one of our Substacks, little chyron at the top, you press it, boom, you're subscribed, but supporting us by paying for a membership or just sharing this content. It doesn't matter where it goes. Hit those hearts, that little box with the arrow. Share it with as many people as you can. This is the resistance, and we need to get louder, especially now. While we sat and watched Donald Trump legitimately dangle a carrot in front of 800 men and women in uniform saying, hey, listen, let's go after the left. Let's go after my enemies. They do all kinds of terrible things to me, and they're coming for you. So let's just remember you're supposed to, protect foreign and domestic enemies, and they're my domestic enemy. That was a warm-up. We've been seeing warm-up after warm-up, but that warm-up today was to warm up the military-industrial complex to the idea that he's going to need them to come after you. And thank God we've got people like Zev. Thank God we've got people like Lev, Michael Cohen, Michael Nance, the guys at Midas, Aaron, who does an incredible job, Waj, who still continue to push this ball forward to try and inform you and affirm you and to let you know that in no way, shape, or form are we going anywhere, but America might be. And now we're at DEF CON, whatever the worst DEF CON is. We really, really are, if you ask me.
DeanBlundell.substack.com is where you can find Dean. What a great way to end the show, Dean, and the right words to end the show. Thank you very much for being here, gentlemen. It's been an interesting hour. We'll do this again in the future. And thank you at home for watching Narrative tonight. And also, please support these gentlemen. They do incredible work. They are, putting their lives at risk to express their voices, express their opinions, and share their thoughts on the future of America. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you again on Narrative.